Samuel Harrow found her drowning beneath broken timber, her massive frame trapped as floodwater rose around her throat. And in that moment, he had to choose between saving his own life or rescuing a 7-foot-tall stranger whose arms bore strange scars that glowed faintly blue in the storm. The choice would cost him everything he thought he knew about the world. Her unconscious face, despite its unusual size, held a desperate beauty that reminded him of his sister who'd vanished 10 years ago, taken by men in dark coats who claimed she was sick. Lightning split the sky as Samuel dove into the raging current, knowing that if he failed, no one would ever know that giants walked among us, or that one of them would make him the richest man in Texas. Before we dive into the story, I want to ask you something. Where are you watching from right now? Drop a comment below and let me know what time it is there. I love hearing from viewers all around the world, whether it's morning coffee time in New York or late night in Tokyo. Click the like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss these incredible true stories that will leave you speechless. Now let's continue with the story. The flood had taken everything. Samuel's cattle scattered like leaves before the wall of water that turned Bone Creek into a monster. His fence posts snapped like matchsticks. 20 years of scraping by on this unforgiving land, and nature had erased it all in minutes. He should have fled to higher ground like the others. But those cattle were all he had left after the bank took half his land. Through sheets of rain, he spotted movement near the collapsed railroad bridge. Not cattle. Something else thrashed in the water, pinned beneath massive wooden beams. Samuel spurred his horse closer, squinting through the storm. A hand, too large to be normal, reached desperately above the churning surface before disappearing again. His mind couldn't process what he saw. The woman trapped there stood taller than any person he'd ever encountered. Her clothes, strange and institutional, clung to her powerful frame. The timber crushing her chest would have killed a normal person instantly, but she fought with impossible strength. Those marks on her arms weren't tattoos. They pulsed with their own light, like veins of ore running beneath skin. Samuel didn't think. He tied his rope to his saddle horn and plunged into the current. The water slammed him against debris, tearing skin from his palms as he fought toward her. Her eyes opened for a moment, meeting his with a terror that went beyond drowning. She mouthed a single word he couldn't hear over the roar. "Please." The fever broke on the third day. Samuel had been changing the bandages on her arms when her eyes snapped open, wild with panic. She bolted upright, nearly hitting her head on his low cabin ceiling. Those strange marks on her skin flickering like dying embers. Her massive hands grabbed his wrists with shocking gentleness, and she spoke in an accent that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "You must not tell anyone about me," she whispered, her voice carrying an undertone like wind through copper pipes. "They will come. They always come." Samuel pulled free carefully, noting how she flinched at her own strength. "Easy now. You've been unconscious for days. The flood nearly claimed you." She scanned the modest cabin, taking in the patched walls, the single window, the poverty that seeped from every corner. "You risked your life for a stranger. Why?" "Seemed like the right thing." Samuel poured water from a clay pitcher. "Though I admit, I've never seen anyone quite like you." "Vera." She accepted the water with trembling hands. "My name is Vera, and I am not what I appear to be." The morning sun caught the scars on her arms, revealing patterns too precise to be accidental. They formed symbols, equations almost, etched into flesh. Samuel had seen enough brandings on cattle to know deliberate work when he saw it. "The foundry," Vera continued, her voice dropping to barely a whisper. "Have you heard of it?" Samuel shook his head, but something cold settled in his stomach. A place where they make monsters out of people, where they took children who showed promise and turned them into experiments. She rolled up her sleeves fully, revealing the extent of the markings. "These aren't decorations. They're injection sites, maps of what they put inside me." "You're saying someone did this to you?" "Not someone, many someones. Powerful men who discovered something in these Texas mountains, a mineral that changes human bodies when refined correctly." She stood, having to hunch in the small space. "I was 12 when they took me. Now look at me." This height, this strength, it's not natural. It's what happens when you survive their process. Samuel backed toward the door instinctively, then stopped. If she meant harm, she could have snapped him like kindling by now. There were 43 of us, Vera said, tears running down her angular face. I'm the only one who lived past 18. My blood now carries traces of their formula. That makes me valuable. They'll never stop hunting me. Outside, a crow cawed 3 times. Vera's entire body tensed. Do you get many visitors out here? Never, Samuel said, suddenly understanding the weight of what he'd pulled from the flood. Not ever. The men arrived at dawn in black automobiles that had no business on ranch roads. Samuel watched from his porch as dust clouds announced their approach, counting 3 vehicles, 12 men. Their leader stepped out wearing a suit that cost more than Samuel's land, his face carved from winter stone. Cornelius Pike, the man announced, extending a hand Samuel didn't take. We're looking for a dangerous patient who escaped during the flood. A woman of unusual proportions, mentally unstable. Killed 2 orderlies during her escape. Samuel kept his face blank, aware of Vera, hidden in the old mine shaft a quarter-mile behind his cabin. They'd practiced this moment for 2 days, knowing it would come. Haven't seen anyone strange, Samuel said. Lost most of my cattle in that flood. Been too busy searching for them to notice much else. Pike's eyes were colorless, like water over steel. She's 7 feet tall, mister. Harrow. Hard to miss. Sounds like something out of a carnival show. Indeed. Pike gestured to his men, who began spreading across Samuel's property without invitation. You won't mind if we look around? For your safety, of course. Actually, I do mind. This is private property. Pike produced a document from his jacket. Federal health warrant. This patient carries a contagious disease. We have authority to search anywhere she might have sheltered. The forgery was excellent, but Samuel had seen enough government papers to spot the tells. Still, arguing would only raise suspicion. He stepped aside. For 3 hours they searched. Samuel's heart hammered each time they neared the mine entrance, concealed behind fallen rocks he'd carefully arranged. Vera would be cramped in that narrow space, folded nearly in half, breathing shallow to conserve air. The old shaft ran deep, but had only one exit. If they found her, she'd be trapped. Your barn's been recently cleaned, one man observed. Fresh hay in stalls with no horses. Preparing for new stock, Samuel replied. Once I save enough. Pike studied him with those empty eyes. A poor rancher who loses his cattle, yet has fresh supplies? Credit from the general store. Tom Garrett will vouch for me. We already spoke to Tom. He says you've been acting strange, buying more food than one man needs. Samuel forced himself to shrug. Been hiring day workers. Trying to rebuild my fences. Show me these workers. They come and go. None today. Pike circled him slowly, predatory. You know the penalty for harboring a fugitive? Especially one who's killed? I know the penalty. For lying about federal warrants, too. Samuel shot back, gambling everything on a bluff. Pike's jaw tightened. For a moment, violence flickered in his eyes. Then he smiled, cold as morgue metal. We'll be staying in town for a while, Mr. Harrow. If you see anything unusual, anything at all, find us immediately. For your own safety. Vera emerged from the mine shaft after midnight, her body trembling from hours of cramped stillness. Samuel caught her as she stumbled, her weight nearly dropping them both. In the moonlight, those marks on her arms glowed brighter than ever, pulsing with her heartbeat. They're getting desperate, she said, stretching muscles that cracked like old wood. Pike never stays this long unless he's certain. Then we need to get you somewhere else. Mexico, maybe. No. Vera grabbed his shoulder, gentle despite her size. You saved my life. Risked everything for a stranger. I won't leave you with nothing while I run. Besides, I owe you a truth. She led him deeper into his own land than he'd ever explored, past the mine shaft, through a narrow canyon he'd always assumed ended in solid rock. But Vera pressed against specific stones, and a section swung inward, revealing darkness beyond. How did you know about this? The foundry had maps. Old Spanish surveys they stole from archives. Your land, Samuel, sits on something extraordinary. She ducked through the entrance, her fingers finding holds he couldn't see. They never knew exactly where. Only I memorized the coordinates. The passage opened into a cavern that defied belief. Veins of mineral ran through the walls like frozen lightning, blue gold and pulsing with their own light. The air tasted metallic, electric, alive. Samuel's lantern seemed dim compared to the natural glow emanating from the stone itself. "This is what they used on us," Vera explained, running her scarred arms along a vein. "They called it sangre de tierra, blood of the earth. In its raw form, it's deadly. Refined. Correctly, it changes human biology in impossible ways. This has been under my land all along? Under your worthless ranch that the bank wants to seize. Under the dirt you've broken your back trying to farm." Vera chipped away a small piece with a specialized tool she'd hidden in her clothes. "This fragment alone, properly processed, is worth more than all the cattle in Texas." Samuel stared at the glowing walls, wealth beyond imagination surrounding him. "But if Pike learns about this—" "He won't, because I'm the only one who knows the safe extraction process. They forced me to learn it, thinking they'd broken me." She held up the fragment, its light dancing across her face. "They taught their prisoner too well. I memorized not just the process, but their buyers. Secret purchasers who'll pay fortunes for even small amounts. Pharmaceutical companies, inventors, doctors seeking miracles." She pressed the fragment into his palm. "But Samuel, listen carefully. Direct exposure in large quantities will kill a normal person in weeks. You can never mine this alone." "Then we're back where we started." "No." Vera smiled for the first time since he'd saved her. "We're partners now. I need sanctuary. You need someone who can handle this material safely. Together, we can extract enough to make you rich while keeping the location secret." Samuel studied the impossible woman before him, scarred by science but unbroken. "Equal partners?" "Equal partners." She offered her massive hand, and he shook it, sealing a bargain that would change everything. They worked only in darkness, 3 hours before dawn when even Pike's watchers slept. Vera taught Samuel the extraction process with patience born from years of forced labor. The mineral required specific temperatures, certain acids found in desert plants, and most importantly, precise timing. Too long in the solution, and it became poison. Too short, and it remained inert rock. "Your scars," Samuel said one night, watching her, "handle the raw mineral bare-handed while he wore thick gloves she'd fashioned from treated leather. They're not just injection sites, are they?" "Absorption points," Vera confirmed, processing another batch in the hidden cavern. The foundry discovered that direct integration through scarification allowed certain subjects to survive exposure. They carved these patterns into us, one child at a time, seeing who lived. "How many died?" "All of them, eventually. Except me." She poured the refined liquid into glass vials she taught him to make from sand and ash. "My body adapted, changed. Growing was just the visible part. My blood now carries antibodies that neutralize the mineral's toxicity." Samuel secured another vial in the padded case they'd built. 20 vials so far, each worth a fortune to the right buyer. Vera had already sent coded telegrams to connections she'd memorized from the foundry's files, buyers who asked no questions about sources. "There was a girl," Vera said suddenly, her voice soft in the glowing darkness. "Rosa. 13 years old when they brought her in. Red hair like sunset. She lasted 6 months, longer than most. Her hand stilled on the equipment. She died in my arms, begging for her mother. That's when I started memorizing everything. Every formula, every contact, every secret. I knew someday I'd escape and burn their empire down." Samuel touched her shoulder carefully. "We'll stop them. With this wealth, we can expose them. Wealth alone won't stop Pike. He has judges, senators, even generals in his pocket." She resumed working, movements precise despite the emotion in her voice. "But he made one mistake. He let me live, thinking a broken giant would be his greatest asset. They developed a rhythm over the weeks. Samuel sold small quantities through intermediaries, claiming he'd discovered a new mining technique using old Spanish methods. The money trickled in, then flowed. He paid off his bank debt first, then began buying surrounding land, always properties that connected to the hidden cavern system. "You're learning fast," Vera observed as Samuel successfully completed his first solo refinement under her supervision. But remember, greed is what created the foundry. They started with good intentions, seeking cures for diseases. Then they discovered what the mineral could do to human potential. "You mean the growth?" "More than that. Enhanced strength, accelerated healing, expanded mental capacity in some subjects. I can calculate numbers faster than adding machines. My memory is perfect, a side effect they didn't expect." She tapped her temple. Every formula, every face, every scream, all stored here forever. Samuel noticed her hands trembling and recognized the signs of another nightmare approaching. He'd grown accustomed to her night terrors, the way she'd cry out names of children long dead. "We should stop for tonight," he said gently. "One more batch." Pike's men were surveying the eastern border yesterday. "We might need to lay low for a while." The transformation of Samuel Harrow became the talk of Bone Creek. Within 2 months, the struggling rancher had hired 15 workers, bought 3 neighboring properties, and paid cash for everything. His new clothes still carried dust, but they were tailored now. His boots were custom-made to handle the rough terrain. People noticed, and people talked. Sheriff Wade Colton arrived on a Tuesday afternoon, his badge catching sunlight as he dismounted. Samuel recognized the look in his eyes immediately. Pike's money had found another pocket. "Quite an operation you're building here," Colton said, surveying the construction of new barns and the workers repairing fences. "Folks are wondering where a man who nearly lost everything to floods suddenly finds such fortune." "Hard work and lucky strikes," Samuel replied, keeping his voice steady. "Been developing a new extraction method for minerals. Found some deposits worth harvesting. Mind showing me these deposits?" "Actually, I do. Trade secrets and all." Colton's hand drifted to his pistol. "Samuel, we've known each other 8 years. You've never been one for secrets. Now you're buying land like a railroad baron and hiring men you barely screen. Even ordered special equipment from San Antonio. Glass-making supplies, they say." Behind them, Vera watched from the cabin window, hidden by curtains but alert. They'd developed signals for trouble. If Samuel adjusted his hat twice, she'd flee to the caverns. "Since when is success suspicious, Sheriff?" "Since Mr. Pike informed me about mineral thefts from private research facilities. Seems someone's been selling rare compounds that match certain stolen formulas." Colton stepped closer. "He's offering a substantial reward for information." "Then I suggest you keep searching elsewhere." The sheriff's eyes narrowed. "Your workers mention you disappear before dawn most days. They also say you've built sections of your property off limits to everyone. Private's one thing, but secretive's another." Samuel felt sweat gathering under his collar. They'd been careful, but not careful enough. A man's entitled to his privacy on his own land. True, but a woman matching a certain description was seen at Thompson's store last week. Tall as a barn door, wearing men's clothes, buying medical supplies. Colton studied Samuel's face. "Funny thing is, Thompson swears he's never seen her before, but she knew exactly where everything was kept. Like someone had drawn her a detailed map. That had been their mistake." Vera had insisted she could handle one supply run while Samuel distracted Pike's men on the opposite side of town. Her disguise had been good, but not perfect. "Lots of folks passing through after the flood," Samuel said carefully. "Refugees, travelers, all sorts." "All sorts indeed." Colton mounted his horse. "Word of advice, Samuel. Whatever you're hiding, Pike has resources beyond what you can imagine. He owns judges in Austin, has connections in Washington. If you're protecting something or someone, consider whether it's worth your life." After Colton left, Vera emerged from the cabin, her face drawn with worry. "We're running out of time. Maybe we should take what we've earned and disappear." "No." Her voice carried steel. "I've spent my whole life running or hiding. The cavern gives us power, Samuel. Real power to fight back. She looked at the workers in the distance. Good men trying to feed their families. We just need to be smarter. And we need allies. Jesse Garrett had worked Samuel's ranch for 3 weeks, quiet and efficient, never asking questions about the restricted areas. His own ranch had failed after the flood, leaving him desperate with 3 children to feed. Samuel had trusted that desperation would buy loyalty. He was wrong. Dawn came with thunder that wasn't storm clouds. 30 riders surrounded the ranch, rifles gleaming in the early light. Pike stood at their center, triumphant, while Jesse counted bills beside him. 30 pieces of silver adjusted for inflation. "She's in the storm cellar," Jesse announced, unable to meet Samuel's eyes. "The giant woman. Saw her go down there last night." "I'm sorry, Samuel, but my kids." Pike offered enough to start over somewhere clean. Samuel reached for his rifle, but Pike's men were faster. The bullet caught his shoulder, spinning him into the dirt. Through the pain, he saw Vera emerge from the cellar, her massive frame filling the doorway. She could have fought, probably killed several before they brought her down. Instead, she walked forward with her hands raised, her eyes finding Samuel's. "Magnificent," Pike breathed, approaching her like a hunter examining prize game. "You've grown even more since you left us. The mineral's still changing you, isn't it?" "Let him go," Vera said. "You have me. That's all you wanted." "Oh, my dear specimen, you're mistaken. Mr. Harrow has been stealing from us, selling our proprietary compounds. That makes him complicit." Pike nodded to his men. "Chain her. Triple reinforced. The ones we prepared specially." They bound Vera with chains that glowed faintly blue, metal infused with the same mineral that coursed through her blood. She gasped as they locked around her wrists. The reaction immediate and visible. Her strength drained like water from a broken dam. Samuel struggled to his feet, blood soaking his shirt. "She's not property. She's a person you tortured." "She's a breakthrough," Pike corrected. "The only successful integration of the Sangre de Tierra. Her blood will let us create an army of enhanced humans. Imagine soldiers who can't die, workers who need no rest, minds that surpass current human limitations." "You mean slaves," Samuel spat blood. "Enhanced slaves for your empire." Pike's boot connected with Samuel's wound, dropping him again. "Chain him too. He'll be useful leverage to ensure her cooperation." As they dragged Vera toward a reinforced wagon, she managed to brush past Samuel. Her lips barely moved, but he heard her whisper, "Whitmore Cemetery, third angel from the left. Everything you need." Then she was gone, loaded like cargo, while Pike's men debated whether to burn the ranch or leave it as a warning to others. Jesse Garrett stood alone, clutching his blood money, realizing too late that some betrayals cost more than they pay. "You've killed him," Jesse said quietly. "Pike won't let Samuel live." "Should have thought of that before," one of Pike's men laughed. "Your friend's about to disappear forever." Just like all the others who asked questions, Samuel lay in his own blood, watching dust clouds disappear toward the horizon, carrying away the woman who'd changed everything. The mineral in his pocket seemed to pulse with her heartbeat, growing fainter with distance. He had one chance, one secret she'd managed to share. Third angel from the left. The angel's stone hands held a hollow book, hidden exactly where Vera had whispered. Inside, Samuel found documents that stopped his breath. Photographs of children, dozens of them, each marked acquired with dates spanning 20 years. Among them, a face he knew like his own reflection. His sister Margaret, the one men in dark coats had taken, claiming she was sick. But more than photos waited in that stone cache. Vera had hidden a journal, every page filled with her perfect memories recall. Names, dates, locations, formulas, and most damning, signed contracts between Pike and his associates. Senators, judges, industrial titans, all complicit in kidnapping children for the Foundry's experiments. Samuel rode through the night to the Broken Wheel Ranch, home of Catherine Morse, whose son vanished 5 years ago. Then to the Twisted River Spread, where John Littlefoot still searched for his daughter. By morning, he'd gathered 7 families. all nursing wounds that never healed, all holding memories of children taken by men who claimed medical authority. They called it scarlet fever. Catherine said, gripping a faded photograph. Said my William needed special treatment at a distant hospital. We never saw him again. Samuel spread Vera's documents across the table. He died at the foundry. Day 43 of their experiments. Vera held him as he passed. She memorized every child's name, every face, waiting for the chance to bring justice. John Littlefoot studied the photos with tears cutting channels through weathered cheeks. My Sarah. They said she had a rare blood disease, these monsters. Are still operating, Samuel finished. Right now they have Vera at their main facility. This map shows where. An abandoned silver mine called Guadalupe's Rest, 40 miles north. But there's more. He showed them Vera's most crucial discovery. The mineral, when properly refined using her blood as a catalyst, could cure diseases thought impossible. Tuberculosis, cancers, conditions that killed thousands. Pike planned to monopolize this discovery, selling cures only to the wealthy while using enhanced humans as slaves. We get one chance, Samuel said. Pike thinks I'm dying from that gunshot. He doesn't know Vera taught me field medicine, or that I've been treating myself with diluted mineral compounds. We hit them tomorrow night during the new moon. Catherine stood, her small frame rigid with determination. I'm 63 years old. I've got nothing left but the hope of justice for William. Count me in, John added. But 7 against Pike's army? 15, Samuel corrected as more riders arrived. Word spreading. Every family they've touched wants blood for blood. They spent the day planning, using Vera's detailed sketches of the foundry's layout. She'd included guard rotations, weak points, even which scientists felt guilt about their work and might be turned. There's a doctor, Samuel explained. Ernst Hoffman. Vera says he tried to help the children, smuggled them extra food and blankets. He's our inside man if we can reach him. As sunset approached, Samuel felt the weight of what they attempted. Not just rescue, but revolution against men who owned judges and commanded armies. Samuel, Catherine asked quietly, your shoulders bleeding through the bandage. He looked down at the spreading red, his body finally rebelling against the activity. It'll hold until we get her back. And if it doesn't? Samuel loaded his rifle with bullets Vera had taught him to coat with mineral dust, powerful enough to pierce even reinforced steel. Then I'll die knowing we tried. That's more than these children ever got. The foundry erupted in chaos at midnight. Samuel's allies struck from 3 directions, using Vera's knowledge of blind spots and weak structures. While gunfire echoed above, Samuel and John Littlefoot descended through a ventilation shaft Vera had marked, entering the facility's heart. The laboratory stretched like a cathedral of horror. Glass chambers lined the walls, most empty, but 3 still held people. Children who'd survived initial experiments, suspended in blue liquid, neither alive nor dead. Samuel's stomach turned, but he pressed forward, following Vera's drawn path to the main containment area. He found her strapped to a steel table, tubes running from her arms to machines that hummed with mechanical hunger. They were draining her blood, gallons of it, while somehow keeping her conscious. Dr. Hoffman stood beside her, his face a mask of anguish. Thank God, Hoffman whispered when he saw Samuel. I've been stalling the procedure, but Pike grows suspicious. Samuel cut Vera's restraints while Hoffman disconnected the tubes. She collapsed against him, her massive frame trembling. You came! Partners, remember? Above them, an explosion shook dust from the ceiling. Catherine Morse had found the weapons cache, just as Vera's map indicated. Pike entered with 5 guards, his suit still perfect despite the carnage above. How touching. The rancher plays hero. He drew an unusual pistol, its barrel glowing with the same blue light as the mineral. Did you think we hadn't prepared for this? Every wall here is lined with sangre de tierra. One shot from this weapon will cause a reaction that kills everyone except those with immunity. He smiled coldly. That means only your giant survives. Then you die too, Samuel pointed out. I've been taking diluted doses for months. Enough to survive, not enough to change. Pike stepped closer. Here's my offer, Mr. Harrow. Join us. Your knowledge of extraction, combined with our resources, could transform humanity. You'd have wealth beyond imagination, power beyond dreams. All you need to do is walk away while we continue our work. Samuel looked at the children in tanks, at Vera's scarred arms, at Hoffman's guilty eyes. Counteroffer. You release everyone, destroy your research, and turn yourself in for kidnapping and murder. Pike laughed. You're in no position to negotiate. Actually, he is, Vera said, standing despite her weakness. From her clothing, she produced a vial Samuel recognized. Pure, concentrated mineral compound, enough to kill everyone in the room if shattered. I prepared this before you took me. One drop in the air, and your lined walls become a death trap. Only I survive. You wouldn't. Harrow dies too. Vera met Samuel's eyes. He nodded, understanding. They discussed this possibility during their long nights of work. Some things mattered more than survival. Samuel taught me something, Vera said. Sometimes the right thing costs everything. She raised the vial high. Pike's men scattered. In the chaos, Hoffman grabbed Pike's weapon, turning it on its owner. For the children, he said, and fired. The blast threw Pike through glass equipment, his body convulsing as the mineral in his system reacted violently. He aged decades in seconds, his elaborate plans crumbling with his flesh. The children in the tanks, Hoffman said urgently. We can save them, but we need Vera's blood for the antidote. As they worked to free the surviving victims, Samuel found Pike's files. Names of every conspirator, every buyer, every politician who'd enabled the Foundry's horrors. Evidence enough to destroy an empire built on suffering. Burn it all? John Littlefoot asked, holding a torch. Samuel looked at Vera, who cradled a rescued child, a girl no older than 10 whose body bore the same terrible scars. Every last stone. 5 years later, Samuel stood on the same porch where Pike's men had once surrounded his ranch. But everything else had changed. The barren fields now bloomed with medicinal gardens, tended by survivors who'd found sanctuary here. Buildings that once housed cattle now served as laboratories where Dr. Hoffman and Vera developed treatments, using the mineral's power for healing instead of horror. The government investigators had come and gone, granting Samuel exclusive mining rights in exchange for his testimony. Pike's network had crumbled, sending 3 senators and a federal judge to prison. The Foundry's ruins had been sealed, a monument to ambition's darkest impulses. The latest batch is ready, Vera announced, emerging from the main laboratory. She still stood 7 feet tall, still bore the scars, but she moved with confidence now, no longer hiding her nature. Enough antiviral compound to treat the tuberculosis outbreak in Houston. They discovered that her blood, when properly combined with refined mineral, could create medicines that seemed like miracles. But Samuel insisted they charge only what families could afford, sometimes nothing at all. Their wealth came not from exploitation, but from patents shared freely with ethical manufacturers. We have visitors, Samuel said, gesturing toward approaching riders. 3 children rode up, teenagers now, the ones they'd saved from the Foundry's tanks. Maria, Thomas, and little Sam, who'd chosen his name after the man who'd carried him from hell. They'd been living with families in town, but visited often, drawn to the only people who understood their altered bodies. Aunt Vera, Maria called out, dismounting with inhuman grace. The mineral had changed them too, though less dramatically. Enhanced strength, quick healing, minds that processed information like telegraph wires. Dr. Hoffman says we can start helping with the treatments next week. Vera embraced each of them, her massive arms, gentle as butterfly wings. These children had become her purpose, her redemption for the ones she couldn't save. That evening, as they gathered for dinner, Samuel watched their strange family around the table. Hoffman arguing chemistry with Thomas, Maria teaching little Sam to control his strength, Catherine Morse serving her famous cornbread while telling stories of her son William, keeping his memory alive. You're smiling, Vera observed, sitting beside him on the reinforced bench they'd built specially for her. Just thinking about wealth, Samuel replied. Pike thought it meant owning people, controlling power. The bank thought it meant land and cattle. And you? Samuel looked at their assembled family, survivors who'd chosen to heal together rather than let trauma define them. The ranch had become a sanctuary for anyone the Foundry had touched, a place where different meant special, where scars told stories of survival. This, he said simply, this is wealth. As sunset painted the Texas sky, a preacher arrived from town. Samuel had asked him to come for a special purpose. There, surrounded by their chosen family, Samuel Harrow married Vera in a ceremony that made the local newspaper. "Giant woman weds local rancher," the headline would read, but it missed the real story. The real story was two broken people who'd found wholeness in each other. A poor rancher who'd discovered treasure not in the ground but in choosing love over fear. A woman whose imposed size had made her mighty enough to lift others from despair. Samuel had indeed become the richest man in Texas, not through the mineral that still pulsed in the caverns below, but through the lives they'd saved and the family they'd built from society's discarded souls. As Vera stood tall beside him, no longer hiding, he knew that some fortunes couldn't be counted in dollars. They were measured in the children who called them home. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey. If this story touched your heart, remember to like this video and subscribe to never miss another amazing tale that proves love conquers all. Tomorrow, I'll share another story that will restore your faith in humanity. Until then, remember that true wealth is found in the people who stand beside us.